In a place outside time lies a mystical realm of sound and vision. A wondrous civilization. Where good and evil struggle to possess the dark crystal.
Now, to class the place up, well, not only do we have the epic Toby Philpott, but we have the legendary Simon Williamson, who also survived some of the same productions as Toby. We were talking Dark Crystal, and Toby was sort of talking about a crane disaster that shut the production down for a day and got into some of the other sort of production elements. Do you have to refresh yourself with your Dark Crystal memories to do this, or do you have it pretty much intact in your head?
I think it's pretty much intact, but there's always a few things that people say and you kind of think, I'd forgotten entirely about that. Wow, of course, yes. Or some little, something that was said on set or something that happened. You see, you're not always totally aware of what's going on the set. If you're inside a big costume, particularly a mystic, you just kind of retreat into a kind of meditative state. So, yeah.
Do you guys remember the day you two met?
Well, we met in pre-production. I don't.
We went to one of the auditions, wouldn't we?
We probably met in the auditions, although they ran several, didn't they? And we were in the last 10. They boiled it down from 100 people or something to 20 and
So we had that 2-week period when 10 of us was selected. And we kind of trained on Hampstead Heath with Amiel. And then from that 2 weeks, we kind of picked 4 to go forward and then 6 to join later, of which you were one of the 4 and I wasn't. And then a few weeks later, you did your back in. And so I was on the list.
But it was a bit peculiar, really, because it was always a toss-up. I remember when they picked the 4, they picked 3, and then they said, and then we couldn't decide between Toby and Simon, and there was this horrible, reality TV moment when that we picked Toby.
Wow!
And then weirdly, within a few weeks, I copped out. So they had already thought of you.
I'd forgotten that detail of a kind of.
Well, I remember the anxiety. You do on TV shows, and they go, and the one who's going home is, and there's that long pause when they do close-ups of faces.
Wow, I'd forgotten that.
Well, that's the way I remember it.
Toby, he blocked that. Simon's been trying to block that moment out.
Yeah. Well, I felt apologetic. I didn't do my back in just to let Simon back in again.
You didn't tell him. You didn't tell him during the tea break, Simon. I'm gonna get hurt in about 2 weeks. Be ready.
So they did that. Those 4 did. I mean, Simon can tell you the detail, but they did about a few months of pre-production, more pre-production rehearsals.
I think it was quite a few months.
Yeah, because I think I dropped out in November, and we started shooting in March, April or something?
I don't know. I'd have to look at my old call sheets. I've got them all.
I know. Yeah. So I mean, it was quite a close-knit group. I mean, while we were auditioning, it was quite competitive, obviously, because people would want to be in a movie. But once we formed that group of, we were quite close because we had been workshopping together, and you get into trust games, and you start to rely on each other quite a lot. So we were, us 10 there were 1 or 2 people in it that dropped out, like Ocon and so on, but it was quite
Jonathan
a close-knit group.
Out and Ocon,
we were a unit. They called upon us to do not just Gartham and Mystics and Landstride, But we were then given all these other jobs. You know, once we'd been given our big creature jobs, we were all assigned to puppeteers as a secondary, as support team, and we all did background stuff. I mean, the amount of background creatures and things that we did, we never knew what we were going to do when we got to work. It was always a surprise.
I know, that's the fun of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember one day we were underneath the stage and there was a kind of little swamp that was little bubbles, and we each like fingers, like finger puppets in these bubbles, making it sort of flow.
When you look at the Dark Crystal, Simon, do you have a moment of the film that really sticks with you?
Frank Oz is the Chamberlain, I think it was, Skeksis, and he's all the other Skeksis descend on him. And he's up against this wall and his one hand up and he's panting away as they strip all his clothes off and he's left there panting. And honestly, as a piece of puppeteering, it was just extraordinary. It kind of, the hairs stood up on the back of your neck. It was just so uncanny and real, this kind of gasping creature that was all, because you'd never seen the Skeksis naked before. And so obviously they got very peculiar knobbly bodies, and so to see that, and it was so real, it was just master puppeteering. I think that's probably my favorite thing from Dark Crystal.
Your road to redemption is paved with tombstones. No quarter, kill all masters. Go to noquarterkillallmasters.com. Rated R.